Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the Bitcoin miners, and we're also going to go over a little bit into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so as you guys know, we went over this already. Portfolio was down massively, just a monstrous 7%. I mean, literally everything was down. I mean, we literally would buy everything if we had, infinite money, but obviously money is limited. Anybody that, has any kind of money, whether it's $1 or $1 billion, has some kind of limitations. So we did buy some XDTE though. We showed you guys that. We also bought some Filecoins. So you can see that some of these options plays are on the move. We managed to pull off a couple on NVIDIA and MSTY, but of course, after those pulled back, I mean, I highly doubt they're going to get called away at a profit. So, but then again, I could be wrong. So, the thing I want to point out here is that there is the opportunity to make some passive income. Well, it's not really passive, but it takes like 2 or 3 minutes, or not even that long. If you include some basic TA, it takes roughly about 2 or 3 minutes to do some sell calls or some sell puts on some of these miners. Just to let you guys know, my personal favorite is actually Mara. You'd probably think it was CLSK because we have more CLSK, but it's actually not CLSK. It's Mara. So Mara options premiums are really good. So I'll just show you guys this. So if you went ahead and bought 100 shares, let's just say you bought it at the average share price that it's currently at market open, so $20.70. My guess is it's probably going to be a different price by market open. Some of these things on Robinhood, they trade at 24 hours a day, so it's not going to be exact. But you could basically just take the 9-day time frame, times it by 3. That covers basically a month. That would give you the idea of how much you'll make in a month from options premiums. Because Bitcoin miners are so unbelievably volatile, what I would do is, of course, this is what I would do. You guys can do what you want to do. I would probably pick somewhere around a 30 delta or lower, somewhere between maybe a 25 to a 30 delta. In this case, you could get $68 for one contract every 9 days. So that would come out to roughly about a little under $200. Now, you could also do a cash secured put. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Sorry about that. And it actually does make more sense, and I believe it is also more profitable to do cash secured puts on down days. So you can see that this is also a 29 delta like the sell call, except the premium here is slightly higher, so you get 74 cents instead of 68 cents. So the theory here is that it's more profitable in terms of collecting premiums to do cash secured puts on down days on the stock and covered calls on up days on the stock. So there's some other ones. Mara's got great premiums. CLSK has some pretty decent premiums. Although Mara's share price has held up much better than CLSK, and then RIOT has some pretty good premiums, and HUT8 as well. As a matter of fact, now that HUT8 is insanely expensive, whoops, that is not what I wanted to do. So let's go over to HUT8. I mean, it was at $20, and then today kind of happens. So if you were doing cash secured puts on this, then likely you probably will get filled, or unless you choose to close early, that's entirely up to you. But as you guys can see, the premiums here are still pretty good. If you do close to at the money, you'll make a lot in premiums. Even far out of the money, so like this one, for example, 27 delta, you'll get $24 or $42 per 100 shares. So basically 42 cents times 100 shares, because you can't do you can only do cash secured puts and covered calls with lots of 100 shares. But again, the markets are down today, and if they keep trying to threaten us that they're going to continue to go down, then maybe the smarter decision here is that the cash secured puts would be a better option. So, pun intended. So 31 cents basically per contract, or $31 per contract times, we'll just say 3 9-day periods, so about a month, you'd make roughly about $90 or so on the options. So let's go ahead and get into the miners here. First thing I will say is, if the markets continue to dump, which I think that they will not, in my opinion, although I will say that the near uninversion of the 2-10-year here, as you guys can see, the yield curve is tightening. That's a little bit concerning. Also, the market is now pricing in a nearly 100%, I think it's a 90% chance of a Fed rate cut in September. That was, as far as I know, not being priced in initially until November. So that has also changed. So if the yield curve inverts and crypto continues to pull back, which is a possibility, then these miners may possibly also pull back, and Bitcoin and Ethereum will pull back. But on the flip side, the bullish side is that the Nashville Bitcoin conference will be tomorrow, and if Trump is to be speaking there, you guys already know that you already know that Trump is bullish on crypto and bullish on Bitcoin. He's already stated so. So my guess is we're probably going to get a serious pump on Thursday as a result of what's being said at the Bitcoin conference. That would be my guess. I would be shocked personally if there was not a massive pump. And when I say a pump, I mean maybe not the whole crypto space, but maybe the whole crypto space does pump. I don't know. But at the very least, Bitcoin and Bitcoin related products. Okay. So Bitcoin, BCHG, LTCN, and the Bitcoin miners, I expect, and the spot Bitcoin ETFs, I expect all of them to go up. But time will tell. Of course, Bitcoin is the market mover. It is the kingmaker. So if Bitcoin goes up, likely the rest of the space is going to go up too. I use the analogy a lot. A rising tide lifts all boats, and a falling tide lowers all boats. In this case, the rising tide would be lifting all the boats, and the boats would be the altcoins. So, just so you guys know, I am still bullish on Bitcoin. Okay, the technicals here basically say that we're reaching the top of the flag. There's going to be some resistance. There's going to be some bears, because there's always bears in every market. Unfortunately, I wish there wasn't, but there is. There's going to be some kind of pullback at this resistance before we get a breakout. Okay, that's inevitable. Do we go back to the bottom of the flag? No, I don't think so. I think at some point this thing is going to test this top line enough to eventually get that huge breakout, and then we're going to head up to this target here for the bull flag target of 125,000 per Bitcoin. I don't think that that's necessarily the top, but that's kind of the immediate target. So Ethereum kind of stuck in between these two ranges. As soon as the net inflows for the spot Ether ETFs outpace the net outflows, which again, there is with Bitcoin when it first had its spot ETFs, there was a 2-week pullback initially, like I showed you guys on the charts, and then we zoomed to the upside after that. I suspect we might see something like that this time, and it would line up if it did take 2 weeks of Ethereum pullback before it launches all the way up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 per ETH. That would line up perfectly with the pullback that we're currently seeing on bearish seasonality, which again generally happens sometime between August to September. Okay. So it all seems to be lining up perfectly. That's just my opinion. Of course, I've told you guys the support is down here in this range between 25 to 2,800 if you guys are looking to buy some ETH. So let's go ahead and do the miners. All right, so Mara had this massive sell-off. It kind of sucks, but I'm not really surprised. Technically speaking, this thing did have a breakout. It's bound to come back and retest. Retest it did. So this line, in my mind, is support. So 2150, unless we get a close on the weekly below that. If it closes below that, roughly about $18.50 to $20 is going to be the support there. On this one, I would say this is a good dip on opportunity because there's a lot of support here. You got the EMAs, you got this support range, you have the bottom of this rising broadening wedge, which is a massive wedge, by the way. I'll show you guys that in a minute. That this bottom line also holds the support, and you have this white line going across, which is potentially a flip zone here. So in my mind, Mara is a good buy at this point. 29.50 to about 33 on the resistance, and then you have this upper line up here, which as of right now is, I mean, assuming this thing just did a God candle and went straight up, it would go up to $43. So that kind of tells you the potential there. So that's that. If I go down to the daily time frame real quick and take a look at the daily time frame, so you can see we might be potentially maybe getting a death cross here on the MACD. Once again, I'm not really too concerned about Mara selling off. Mara is a very resilient Bitcoin miner. It would not shock me if it just kind of hit this, maybe this white line, zoomed back up right above it, closed above it, and then took off, or maybe even just did like a little baby tap of this support zone and the boom, popped off to the moon. That would kind of almost what I would be what I would expect something like Mara to do, since it, as far as I know, it is the biggest Bitcoin miner. So in terms of the wedge, you guys can kind of see the rising broadening wedge here. Technically speaking, this is a bearish pattern. Okay, any rising wedge of any kind is a bearish pattern, and any falling wedge is a bullish pattern. It's basically a reversal pattern. Is pretty much what it is. I've told you guys by December of 2024, which is when I expect the crypto market to really start heating up. Again, Bitcoin should be smashing all-time highs by then. We should get some kind of move from Bitcoin into ETH and altcoins in Q1 of next year, but the price of Mara at the top of this wedge would be about $52. So roughly about a 2.5x your money from the current price. Again, I've showed you guys the premiums on options. That's always another passive income alternative if that's something you're interested in. I do still expect crypto to have a bear market in 2026. I'll just say this. I'm willing to accept the mass adoption theory that it's possible, especially after showing you guys the chart of the gold ETFs and what happened to the price of gold after that. It basically went up for 7 years straight, that Bitcoin and crypto could do that. I'm willing to accept that as a possibility. But in order to accept that as a possibility, I have to see zero bear market for crypto in 2026. Okay. Crypto cannot go down 80 to 90%. Okay. Bitcoin in 2026 cannot go down 70 plus percent. Altcoins cannot go down 90 plus percent. If I do not see that, then I would say, yes, I think mainstream adoption has taken place. And something similar to what we saw with gold is taking place. But again, we're far off that mark. We have about a year and a half left. The Fed has to cut rates. Money has to flow from money market funds and cash equivalents back into the markets. Okay, we got to see all that happen before we even get to 2026. So I just want to throw that out there just so everybody knows. Right, so I almost forgot here. So Mara, let's look at the targets. So basically from the current price to the resistance, you're looking at 43%, 60%. And it's hard for me to measure this exactly, but we'll just say we'll go out to the December timeframe. It's going to be roughly about 150% move, as you guys can see, huge move there. Now, if I were to give a measured move, let's say from the bottom of this wedge, basically about the bottom of support, all the way up to the resistance up here, you're looking at 59%, all the way up to 78%. In my mind, that's still pretty good. You could obviously, if you do it right, you could compound that even more potentially with the options premiums. Now, whether you guys want to buy calls or sell calls, buy puts or sell puts, that's entirely up to you. So CLSK, pretty much nothing's changed here. I mean, this thing's just been stuck in this potential bull flag and or just sideways chop forever. Because it did break out and go sideways into this, I'm going to assume this is going to be a continuation pattern, i.e. a bull flag, although that's a really ugly bull flag in my opinion. But it doesn't matter. It only matters if the price goes up. So $36.50 would be the target there. As you guys can see, we are still very similar to Mara, but not quite the same pattern within a rising broadening wedge or potentially even a microphone pattern here. I would not say this. I would say this is probably not wide enough to be a microphone pattern, but it does look pretty similar. So again, the bottom of this channel, in my mind, is going to be the support. So about $15. Again, the support could range anywhere from 15, let's just say maybe to October, up to 19. In my opinion, that's your buying window right there. When we get to November, December, I am expecting the Bitcoin miners to start moonshotting. So 21 to 23.5 here on resistance. And again, none of this is financial advice. I'm just, some guy with an opinion, giving you guys his opinions. So, but if I take the measured move from, let's just say the bottom of this channel all the way up to this resistance level up here, 53% move, and then up here 178% move respectively. So again, you have 2150 to about 2350, and then if we can get above that, 3650 to 4250. So RIOT, we got a breakout. Again, inverse head and shoulders pattern here. The target's all the way up here at 1460. It wouldn't shock me if this data actually hit because the price has been suppressed for quite some time. So Support down here is 780 to about 1018, or we'll just call it 1020. Resistance 1860 to roughly about $21 all the way up here. And the other thing I'm looking at is that the price is above the EMA, so maybe a retest of the EMAs and then launch to the upside again. The Nashville Bitcoin conference is tomorrow, and Trump's going to be speaking there. So if he says anything bullish, which I suspect he will, because Trump is an optimist, likely these miners and the price of Bitcoin are going to launch much, much higher. I would be shocked if they didn't. So yeah, about that. Anyways, let's go ahead and do the measurements here. So if this thing does pull back into the bottom of the support, which is possible, I would say not likely, roughly about 32% move. If we get a launch, let's say from the current price all the way to the highs, which again, I'm throwing that as a suggestion out there. It's possible because again, we're 1 day away from the Bitcoin Nashville conference, and I'm pretty sure Trump's not going to be the only influential person speaking there that's bullish on crypto. So 65% move here, and then to go from the current price all the way up to the resistance range high up here, 84%. However, if there is some kind of pullback, let's just say these candle lows here at $9, which again is even based on the price that I'm seeing now is a golden opportunity, 107% here all the way up to 134%. And keep in mind, you can do options on these miners. You can sell calls or sell puts on a weekly basis if you want to. You don't have to do it on a monthly basis. So you could be collecting premiums. If you get your costs low enough, you could collect options premiums all the while the price is sitting down here if that does happen. But again, I don't think that's likely to happen. So HUD 8 getting some kind of pullback here at previous resistance. That's not really shocking. It's just a question of whether it's going to break out or come back down to the EMAs. We don't know. So support here has already been broken out of. That's $4 to $8.70. I don't think HUD 8's going back to $4 anytime soon. I just don't see that happening. I would say probably a bounce point going to be somewhere between this $11.50 to about $15 range. Again, that's the EMAs down there. That's the blue one is the 8 EMA, the yellow one is the 21, and the red one is the 51. So we'll just say you get them at the yellow, roughly about 12.5. You would then be looking at roughly about 38% to as much as 80%. And that resistance zone up there is 17.5 to 22.5. Keep in mind, if you're short-term bearish on these positions, you think the miners are going to pull back, you can, if you wanted to, you could throw on some cash secured puts. The great thing about doing options is it allows you to, if you want to get the shares at a cheaper price, you can get paid to do so by doing options, by selling cash secured puts and get them at a lower price if they get filled. There's a chance they may not get filled. If they don't get filled, if you get the dip and it doesn't dip as much as you want it to, let's say your strike price is at 16, but it only goes down to 16.50, you don't think it's going to get filled at 16, then you could just buy straight off the market at 16.50. That is a strategy that we use sometimes. So cifr, this thing still looks super bullish. I can't imagine this thing is actually going to come back down below the support because it got held down for so long. It just launched like a rocket straight to the upside. So ascending triangle pattern here. The target is all the way up here at $9. We're looking for kind of a retest of support. So support is $5 to about $5.50-ish. The resistance up here, $9.50 to about $10. If I measure it from the current price, let's say to the top of resistance up here is 74%. And then to the bottom of resistance, roughly about 100% move. I've never done options on cifr. Well, I take that back. I think we have actually done options on cifr, but it's been a long time since we've done it or even bought the shares. But I haven't looked at it in a while, so you guys will have to let me know down in the comments below if the options premiums are worth it or not if you're doing them on them. So btbt. Kind of similar to HUD 8. So we are testing this kind of bear zone here. Again, this is not just a profit. You guys got to think about this in trading terms. This is not just a take profit zone. This is also a zone that bears are going to be looking to dump on everybody's head because that's what bears do. Okay. And the inverse is true here. This is a area not just where people are looking to buy the dip, but bears are also looking to cover their shorts, which means that the price would then doubly squeeze, right? So I would say, again, the EMAs are going to be roughly about support. So 280 to 330-ish, 420 to 485 at resistance, 530 all the way up at the swing high. Show you guys what the pullback potential is here, roughly about 29% or so. If you get options premiums by doing cash secured puts, by the way, that lowers your average cost basis. It also gives you a hedge against basically a pullback. So if you got in too early, let's say you got in up here, but you did some cash secured puts, which you got assigned down here, it would reduce your cost basis and also pay you some passive income to kind of offset that unrealized loss, so to speak. So let's say you got some at the yellow EMA here at $3. The move here would be 44% to about 64%, and then 77.5% respectively. BITF, this thing is just kind of stuck in no man's land. It's just chopping sideways. Doesn't know what it wants to do yet. What I would say is based on the trajectory of the way the chart looks. So we have a low, a high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. In my opinion, I would say it looks pretty bullish as of right now. In theory, this is kind of what it should look like. This is what it should look like, okay? So a series of higher highs, higher lows, and then we continue the bull trend. As far as I'm concerned, we have a lot of higher lows here and we have a lot of higher highs here. That, in my mind, is still a bull market. It's a bull trend, okay? In order for me to change my mind on this, basically the price action would have to come back down below this swing low here at 160 and have at least a red candle close below 160 in order for me to say, okay, now there's a potential this may be a bear trend instead of a bull trend. Obviously, we would have to go through the EMAs and support to get there, which is why I think it's likely not going to happen. So if I had to guess as to which way this is going to go, I would say it's going to break resistance and go to the upside. That could be with or without the Nashville Bitcoin conference. I think the Nashville Bitcoin conference is just going to be more bullish fodder for the cannon, so to speak. So $2 to $2.35 here at support, $3 to roughly about $3.60 at resistance, and then $3.90 at the swing high up there. Just to give you guys the understanding of how big the dip is, it's roughly about 25% here. So let's just say you pick up some at the red EMA at 215. The move that would then be roughly about 37% to 66. We'll just call that 66%, and then as high as 83% respectively. So kind of what I think is going to happen with the Bitcoin conference tomorrow. Okay, by the time those of you that don't have a channel membership, by the time you see this, it will be the day after the conference. So we'll know by that day. But I will say that as of right now, I suspect the conference is going to be bullish. There's two reasons for that. Number one, Trump's going to be there. Trump is a pro Bitcoin advocate. You guys know JD Vance actually owns Bitcoin. The other thing is there's going to be a lot, basically, as far as I know, pretty much anybody that goes to that conference is going to be bullish on Bitcoin. There's probably going to be quite a few influential people there, not just the former soon-to-be, again, POTUS, and probably not just a bunch of crypto influencers, stuff like that. There's probably going to be many more people there. The other thing is the market sell-off that we saw today was so disgustingly bearish. I mean, this was like an abnormal sell-off day. This was much larger than I would have expected. My guess is we're going to have a bullish reversal tomorrow. Okay, there is going to be a swing up in the markets. In my opinion, I could be wrong about that. Maybe there's further downside, but I'm going to show you guys why I think that's not going to happen. And again, I could be completely wrong about this. As you guys can see, the market is, of course, pretty overbought on the weekly time frame, and I mean, it's overbought on both of these indicators. And as you guys can see, we have not tested any of these EMAs in quite some time. So again, technicals on the higher time frames say that it's possible, but The reason why I think there will actually be a green day tomorrow is because, as you guys can see, we got a gap down and a massive sell-off following that. And you guys can see we're already touching the bottom of this macro channel, okay? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is we're already in oversold territory on the hourly time frame. This is on the SPX. Normally I wouldn't show you guys this unless we do our monthly videos, but I think it's important to see now. So on the 4-hourly time frame, we are also touching the bottom of the channel. As you guys can see, last time we had a sell-off in March-April timeframe, we did bounce off of it multiple times before eventually launching higher. And basically from the first bounce all the way to the top here was a massive 14.5% move. Is this guaranteed to happen? No, nothing's guaranteed, okay? But I'm just showing you guys what has happened before. Usually history often rhymes, but it doesn't necessarily repeat. So we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But you guys can see this thing has respected this channel since basically the last dump that we had last year. And that was when the S&P 500 was all the way down at 4,100. So I'm more likely to believe this thing is going to head to the upside, at least in the immediate short term. As for the mid to long term, that's anybody's guess. We don't know as of right now. So anyways, this is the Bitcoin miners. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.